So I grew up in Thomastown, but I went to primary in Coburg. So I split my time between my nonna's house and obviously my parents' house. And now I've moved to Glenroy. Probably about 10 years it's been there. I've been there now. Bought a 1960s home, fully renovated it. So, yeah, lovely area now, family orientated, up and coming as well. Close proximity to the city as well, which is always good for value.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm liking the area, but obviously when the kids grow up, I'm going to need to look at going into some better school zones, to be honest. Yeah.
There's not very good schools
There's
there.
good primaries, so we're all right for the next foreseeable future, but obviously once they start going into high school, there are better zones out there, so it's something we'll need to look at in the future, yeah.
So better primary schools there, not many high schools.
Well, there's one, but obviously you want to send your kids to the best schools.
Yeah.
Obviously I want to give them stuff that I didn't get when I was a kid, so I absolutely want to do everything I can to get them more of obviously the education that they deserve. Yeah.
So ideally, where would you move?
Ideally, there's Strathmore, which is just a couple suburbs down the road, but it is well known for its schooling, especially its secondary. So that's sort of a pocket that we're considering, and also Pascoe South, which is a part of the catchment, the school catchment. So ideally, we want to move there, but who knows what property prices are going to be in 5 years. So, yeah, potentially we might have to look at maybe going there sooner and then maybe renting out our own arc at the moment.
Well, do you reckon that the property market is going to go back to what it was?
Back to what it was when?
Before COVID?
Before COVID, I do believe so. In Melbourne especially, like we're at the bottom of the market cycle here. So the last month or two, I've been hearing a lot of chatter about Melbourne in terms of investments. We are sort of undervalued, especially here in the north. And I do see a lot of potential. We're getting big blocks out here. As you know, land is what appreciates and buildings are what depreciate. So we are getting, say, within 20 kilometres of the CBD, you're getting 600 plus square metre blocks. They are a bit older established homes, but you can add value to the properties. Whereas if you're going further out to your Wallets and stuff like that, there is a lot of land supply and a lot of similar homes. Whereas if you go into a downturn, what's going to differentiate you from one property to the other? For owner-occupiers and investors, it's two totally different markets. Obviously, with your owner-occs, with the market here in Melbourne, I've been seeing a lot of properties passing in and a lot of negotiations happening after auction. So I do see a lot of opportunity, especially coming through the winter months. There is a little bit lower stock levels on the market, but in saying that, I am getting heaps of opportunities off the market, especially getting a heads up on what's coming up in spring, which is typically your higher stock level months. And it really does sort of create... So what a lot of investors and buyers don't understand is there's two sorts of markets. There's on the property market and there's off markets as well. Whereas they don't realise that off markets, they don't even make it to real estate and domain.com.
So how does that? So tell me the difference between them both.
So on market, you're typically finding that the properties make it to real estate and domain and your major real estate channels. Where you're off market, we're getting exclusive sort of emails, and we're calling up agents and we're going to opens and auctions every week. So they're telling us about all stock levels, whether it's on, off the market or pre-market. So we get probably a couple of days advance notice before even anyone else knows about it. So there's such a value add in having a buyer's agent in your corner, because as you know, real estate agents, they work for the vendor and we work for the buyer. So there's no one really representing the buyer in the process. So that's why a buyer's agent was invented, because...
Oh, so I thought you were a real estate agent. You're a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
So you more work with the person trying to buy the property.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood even what you did. I thought it was the other way around. I thought you were the real estate agent.
No. So I'm a buyer's advocate. So I help the buyers purchase the property. They'll come to me with a brief and I'll go out and search for that brief. I'll negotiate the property on their behalf. I'll bid at auction. I'll do all the due diligence on their behalf. I literally do everything from start to finish just to make the processes seamless as possible for them, really saving them a lot of time and stress as well. Whereas a real estate agent, they'll work for the vendor. So it's really sort of about having two people part of the transaction, a real estate agent and a buyer's agent. Whereas a lot of the buyers try to do it themselves and make costly mistakes. So there's a lot of instances where I see buyers, they're spending millions of dollars and they're not even getting a contract reviewed, or they're not even sticking to their budget. They're going to auction and spending 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K over their budget because they get emotional in the purchase. So we take the emotion out of the purchase for them and we stick to their budget. So yeah, as a buyer's advocate, we can help anyone, first home buyers, seasoned investors, upsizers, downsizers. We literally do it all. So yeah.
Okay. So what's that? A buyer's agent?
Buyer's agent, buyer's advocate, same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So as a buyer's agent,
Yeah.
the benefit to having one by your side is that you will find out you'll find out before the property is actually on the market.
Yeah, so
So
that's one of the benefits.
So if I was to go and I was to hire you to say, listen, I want you to find me a property in this area, you would find out before the market finds out. And then is the price less when it be pre-market?
Not always. So not always every property that comes off market is a great deal. You got to assess each deal as it comes. So there are some good, but there are some that are shit as well, you know. So it really just depends on the property that comes across your desk. But what I'm saying is you don't want to just seclude yourself to one part of the market. You want to have access to all stock, not just part of the market, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's just a major benefit of using someone like us, because real estate agents, they like and trust us. They know that we've got clients and we like to get deals done, and it's a smoother process for them as well. So that's why they like dealing with us.
And real estate, if you deal with a real estate agent directly,
Yeah.
they're always going to try and make the most money from the property because they're benefiting. Do they get? They'll get commissions on the house. So the more they sell the house for, the more commission they get.
Yeah.
But you are on the other side where you're saying the less I can get it for, the better I can do for my customer.
Yeah. So we got the same dialogue. So when we're speaking to each other, we know sort of they can't do any funny business with us because we know all the tricks that they try to do. So that they won't sort of intimidate us in any way because we know exactly what their next move is going to be.
Because you know what the property is actually worth.
Exactly.
You know the actual price of it, so they can't sit around and then add 200 grand to it and say, nah, it's worth 200 grand more. Wait a second. I know my valuation. I've done my research. Yeah. This is what it's worth.
Absolutely.
They're not going to try that with you. But with people that don't know, they're going to say 200 grand more. They're not going to question it because they have no idea.
Yeah. So like we won't lowball them like 200K because we're just going to piss the real estate agent off and we need to maintain those relationships because they're the ones that have access to the stock. So we build great relationships with the real estate agent. So we try to work together because the outcome needs to be the same. We both want to do great for our client and sort of make it a win-win for negotiation is all about a win for the vendor and a win for the buyer.
Yeah. It can't be one-sided or else it doesn't work.
Yeah, so both parties need to think that they've won in that transaction. So that's the sort of art of negotiation. So if you just chuck a lowball offer out there, they're just going to tell you to piss off. Like they're not going to even respond to you, to be honest. So yeah, that's sort of another benefit of using us is we know when to make a low offer or when to sort of go, we need to move quickly on this property. There's a lot of interest in this. So it happens a lot. Properties go on auction, but we don't let it go to auction because we know it's going to be a popular property. So we get on it real quick. Within the first open, we'll probably already make an offer. And probably because we've already had a couple of days prior notice, we already probably got a building a pest and everything done. So we're a couple of days ahead of everyone else, and we've got that extra couple of days to evaluate that property compared to everyone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the market now,
Yeah.
and we had a chat about this before, from what I've known, I always knew that Gold Coast was very good. They had a lot of good. There's a lot of investment opportunities in Gold Coast at one stage, I think pre-COVID, and after everything sort of increased a fair bit in cost. Right now, where would you say is the best area or state to invest in?
So a lot of my
more as an investor, not to live in the house, just to buy the property to rent it out to someone.
Yeah. So a lot of my investors at the moment are purchasing in regional Queensland. You're typically finding properties between the 3 to 650 mark, getting great yields as well, typically 6% and above, which is really good for a resi yield. So typically that's the hottest market in the country at the moment, I believe, regional Queensland. Perth is still super hot, but it has had a substantial amount of growth. I don't know how long it can sustain that for. So we've sort of steered clear of Perth at the moment. We are getting a lot of chatter at the moment about Melbourne. So the last 1 to 2 months, we've had a lot of inquiries about Melbourne. As I mentioned before, a lot of activity in the north as well. Compared to the south here, it is way more affordable. And that's what investors look for, affordability as the number one factor. So yeah, typically for investor clients, I would sort of recommend going down the established route where you can get as much land as possible and add value to the property somehow. So whether you buy a 3-bedroom home and you potentially have 2 living rooms, can you knock up a wall and make that a 4-bedroom home, which can create instant equity for yourself? Because you don't want to wait for the market to do something. You want to create your own equity.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does. I've just always been not against property, but I've always seen, I guess, the downsides of homes and stuff like that. I've always invested in more commercial, as in factories and all that sort of thing. I think I got pretty lucky at the time that I did it, because when I bought my factory, it was very cheap. And now that would have been, most factories around the 200 square meters around this area would have been going for the 450 mark. Now you're looking at 700, 800, you're easy. And now to invest in it again, you'd have to find something either off the plan or you'd have to find another way around it because it's too expensive now, even commercial.
And how are you finding sort of tenants? Are you be able to get tenants pretty easily?
I was lucky because I knew people who were in need of the factory. So it was, before I'd even purchased it, I knew who the tenants were going to be.
Yeah.
So it was easy. I know people who just constantly flip factories and buy them and rent them out straight away. There were certain times where they were struggling to find tenants, and then the residential properties were getting tenants quicker and easier. Then it sort of swapped. I don't know. It's a weird market.
Yeah,
within commercial and residential, I think it fluctuates. It's never consistent. It's not like all the time it's easy to find tenants for residential. All the time it's easy to find commercial tenants. It's always changing.
Well, commercial's another ball game in itself. Like, you are getting higher net returns compared to resi, but it does come with higher risk as well.
And it's higher. It's higher upfront payments and stuff like that. that's like 30% or something
Yeah,
like
so you
that.
got
There's
to
no.
put 30% down payment typically is what the lenders look for commercial, whereas your resis, you can it's typically 20%. So yeah, it does come with more of an upfront cost, but in saying that, for our investors, we typically like to diversify their portfolio. So if they've already got a couple resis in there, maybe it might be okay to go look at a commercial as your first investment. Maybe I'd go down the resi route, the more safer route. But once they have a couple, then sort of look to commercial.
Yeah, so start in residential, then build your way up to commercial.
Yeah.
Is that because obviously you got more money, you can pay more upfront, there's higher returns?
Yep.
Is there less? I've always found there's less headaches because a lot of the times you'll find that residential, they don't necessarily need to leave. They're not responsible for what happens to the house. More commercial, you are responsible for everything.
Yeah,
You need to change an aircon, you change the aircon. You need to do certain things. I think hot water services and stuff like that is covered by the person who owns the property. But everything else, any other damages, when I sell that property or when you're out of it, you have to leave it the way that I gave it to you. I remember our factory that we sold, we had to take bolts out the ground, we had to respray things, we had to make this thing like brand new again. So that, I think, I always found a benefit of it because you didn't have to, it didn't cost you an arm and a leg when someone would move out, then get another tenant in there.
Yeah. Obviously, as a landlord in commercial property, you're not really paying all the outgoings. The tenant's paying them. So it is good in that sense. Whereas a resi, you still got to pay a couple things. You know, that's why it brings down your rental yield. So yeah, it's just something to consider. Obviously, between resi and commercial, which way sort of suits your portfolio,
and where you're at,
and where you're at in life, like where you're at and where you want to be.
Because some people are just happy having a few properties that make a bit of cash, wait till they get paid off, have that money coming in. Some people, on the other hand, want to have 15, 20 properties. But for someone like that, you would say, don't stick to residential, flip over to commercial eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think residential's better for people who want, like you said, people who want to start, and commercial's like when you got the money, get into commercial.
Yeah, so all the big guns are mostly in big commercial sort of transactions. That's where they're playing at. But your typical mum and dads are starting off in resi and then sort of getting that knowledge and then transitioning into commercial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you always? How long have you been in the industry for?
So I've been in the industry for 3 years now, but prior to that, I was in construction for 6 to 7. So I do feel like it translates well into real estate. Obviously, when I'm going through a property, I know what materials I'm working with. I know what value I can add, and also what issues may arise. Most importantly, so for me, I've done renovations for myself, so I sort of know the process on what you can and what you can't do, and I find that to be a real asset to my clients because not a lot of BAs do come from a construction background.
Well, I guess that knowledge would help make a massive difference. But so 3 years you've been in it. What made you get into it?
So what made me get into it is I found that firstly, what made me got into it was obviously I've always had a passion for real estate. When I was a young kid, always used to flick through the realestate.com magazines. Back then we did have magazines. And so, yeah, ever since I was a young kid, always liked it. And then when I first bought my property, obviously once you buy a property, you get the property bug, so to speak. So, I bought my first one in 2015, purchased a couple since. So I've built my own portfolio. So I just wanted to help others do the same and sort of create that wealth through property. And for me, my drive is to sort of help my kids out in the future. I do see it becoming increasingly difficult for the next generation to actually purchase property. That's why you're seeing a lot of people rent vesting at the moment, where they rent where they want to live, but they purchase investment properties around the country, so income producing assets. So that's what we're seeing a lot in terms of strategy at the moment. A lot of rent investors, because affordability is just getting out of control.
Yeah,
as you know. Yeah.
So for someone to buy a house to live in, it's unrealistic at the moment.
Yeah.
Especially our generation.
Yeah.
We're struggling now. A lot of my generation, I know for a fact, when you speak to them, I'll buy a property, and they do the calculations of what they need on repayments and all this sort of stuff. Like, I'm not going to have any money to spend with my wage, and they're getting good money.
Yeah.
They got jack shit to spend. If they're living in their house, they got their food to pay for, electricity, water, all this stuff, and plus the repayments, plus the interest, doesn't work out. They get stuck with about $50 at the end of the week. So it's crazy. But that wasn't like that. That wasn't as bad pre-COVID.
Nah.
It almost doubled.
Absolutely not. Like, yes, back in the day they did have high interest rates, but they were also buying property for $27,000. You know, like I know my grandparents bought their house in Coburg for $27K. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Now, like, with inflation, way over $1 million. Like, over time, with property, that's how you create your wealth. So you don't create it in the short term. It is a long-term game. So, yeah, that's just something to consider when you're thinking about investing. It's a long-term game, don't think 1 to 2 years ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely not short term.
Absolutely
no
not.
chance.
Yeah.
It's crazy because you think about how much property has gone up, and you look at wages, how much they've gone up, and there's no
Can't keep up.
You can't even. It's not even the same ballpark. A property that's gone from 26 grand, or let's say 100 grand, is now at $1.2 million. But your wages haven't gone from $30 an hour to 120. They've gone from 30 to 40.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Plus now food, inflation. I remember I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and I said, I remember I used to go with my mum to the shops when I was a young kid, and she used to get a full trolley, packed, like a mountain on top of this trolley.
Going with this.
$200. I used to always look at it and be like, try to guess what it was going to be. It was always around a $200 mark. $200 now, you buy bread, milk, cheese, all these sort of things. You already get $70, $80. It's ridiculous.
Mate, I know my shopping budgets for the week, like, they used to be like in between that 100, 200, maybe 250 if you got everything you needed. Now you're looking at $450.
Easy.
That's a week.
Easy.
That's like someone's wage in a week.
Yeah.
Like, it's silly.
It's beyond a joke. And it's gone ridiculous. And I never really thought about it up until I sat there and I said, I was getting bread, all this sort of stuff. Mum's like, oh, go get some milk and bread. I'm like $8, $12, $13. I'm like, that's just two things in my hands. We used to get a whole trolley for $200.
Yeah, I'm just going to eat rice at home now.
Yeah, just that's why everyone's starting to grow their own crops and stuff now.
Oh, my dad's already got the garden going on.
We're going to go back old school.
Yeah.
We're going back to our grandparents' generation and probably your parents' generation, what they were doing.
Yeah.
Were your parents like that, or more your grandparents?
Both.
Well, there you go.
Both
We're going back.
yeah.
We're going back to that.
Yeah.
Grow your own crops, grow your own fruit.
I've had to put lemon and lime trees in the back of my yard. I just grew my first ones after a couple of years. So, in saying that, I think I'm going to have to put a massive veggie patch in the backyard.
Yeah.
Just so I can, sort of save a bit of money.
We're going to eventually have our own cows, our own chickens. Get
the eggs going.
Get eggs going. Get everything.
Mate, I eat a lot of eggs in the morning as well. So
yeah.
I'm going to need a couple of chickens.
100%. But it's gone like that.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I can't. And it's getting worse.
Yeah.
Now you see all this stuff with all the big, like Coles, Woolworths, stuff like that, and they're talking about how they're charging 3 times. They're saying the interest rate just say 6%, but if you look at the actual dollar that's increased, it's like 20%. They're saying 6% inflation, but they're charging 20% more. So, how does that make sense?
Doesn't.
This whole situation is just crazy at the moment. I'm hoping that all of it will sort itself out, but
Yeah, I don't know. With the government, there's a lot of empty promises as well. Like what they said is they're going to build 1.2 million homes. There's no way, within a 10-year period, I believe. There is absolutely no way that's going to happen. They're already way short of that. That what's the word I'm looking for? Outcome.
Yeah.
They're just way short of that milestone. So, like,
And when did
even
they,
the
when did they
government,
promise
if
that?
the government can't get it right, like, how's everyone else meant to? Like, it's just a joke, to be
So
honest.
when did they make that commitment to
I
say?
think it was last year or the year
So
before.
last year they said we're going to make 1 million properties more
Yeah, 1.2 or whatever it is.
in 10 years' time.
Yeah, obviously to fix the housing shortage, because we are in a housing shortage, we're in a rental crisis. But it's just not going to happen. There's just labour shortages, construction costs are through the roof. There's I don't see it happening at all.
What I don't understand is I always hear we got shortages and home shortages and stuff like that. Is it people coming into the country that are coming over to Australia?
We haven't
Because
gotten-
I guarantee you it is not because we're having too many babies. Because I know for a fact no one's having babies at the moment.
The problem is, like skilled workers, we don't have enough of them.
So we're bringing them over.
Well, yeah. We need to sort of, everyone that's migrating, they're trying to get skilled workers in the door so we can actually build these homes. But obviously, you need to have the skills to do the job.
We're getting skilled workers in to do work that we can't do because we haven't got the skilled workers to even build the homes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's build a home for skilled workers because we have no one here.
Yeah, like, look, going back to real estate, we are meant to have the most population growth from 2026 to 2029. So that is going to put pressure on property prices as well. So that's why you're starting to hear that chatter about Melbourne, because we're ripe for growth here, especially right here in Melbourne. We're at the bottom and we're only looking to go up from here. So that's a hot tip for all the listeners out there. I would get Melbourne on your radar.
Yeah. So why was Melbourne? I guess was it undervalued? Is that why?
Well, all the other capital cities have caught up to Melbourne now. I think Brisbane's overtaken us. I believe Adelaide's close. So yeah, compared to, we're one of the most livable cities in the world. So I believe we're well undervalued at the moment, and yeah, I do see growth, not short term, but that 2 to 5 year period, absolutely. So that longer term view. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You haven't heard much about Melbourne.
No.
I've always heard people investing
Obviously,
interstate.
if you're in the circle and obviously you're with people that are all constantly just talking about it, and obviously I have access to BAs across the country, so we all communicate and we all know what's going on in the market. So yeah, as I mentioned, most recently that's when Melbourne's sort of started hit investors' radars.
So yourself, are you investing in Melbourne now yourself?
I'm actually looking for my next property because I've already got a couple here. I'm going to be diversifying and going elsewhere. But if I was a buyer that had 700-800K maybe, I'd be looking definitely in Melbourne to get something within reasonable distance of the CBD, a suburb that's landlocked, so you can't really be building any more homes around it. Infrastructure's already in place. The economy's doing well as well. So yeah, that's what I'd sort of look for if I was an investor.
So how much? You said 800K to invest.
Well, yeah. So because Melbourne's sort of a bit of one of the premium capital cities, so it is a bit more to invest here compared to other capital cities. But in saying that, you want to get a property when it's at the bottom of the market cycle, not heading towards the top and the peak. which a lot of the other capital cities are at the moment.
So you're saying a person would have to have 800K to invest in Melbourne?
Yeah, well, they don't have to have
realistic.
800.
Yeah,
They're just got to have
a budget of
enough for a deposit to purchase.
So what
that.
would the deposit
But,
be on the house that's worth 800K?
Well, whatever 20% of that is, well, 100 and something, 120K, something like that, to actually invest in that. So to do that, you would be getting something that probably has subdivision potential. So you're not thinking, oh, I'm just going to get a 800K property and I can't do nothing with it. You want to have multiple exit strategies to sort of give yourself a little bit of breathing room as well, because in case something does happen and the market goes down, you can maybe keep the front block and maybe subdivide and build or sell off the back block or build at the back. So you want to have options at the end of the day as an investor. You don't want to sort of buy properties where you're buying a house and land and you got no options to add value, or a lot of those house and lands, they're already built to specifications. So the builder's already taken most of the premium out of the product and you're left with just a product and you're waiting for the market to do something. As investors, we want to sort of create our own equity, and that's how we're going to be able to use that equity to take out of that first IP and purchase your second IP.
So now, just to clarify, 160 grand I need to get an $800,000 home. How many people you reckon under the age of 30 have 160 grand to put towards an investment? Realistically,
it's hard to put that into a number. Like
I'm telling you from who I know, there's not many people under the age of 28, 30
Yep.
that would have $160,000 to put up towards an investment.
Look, you don't always have to go 20%. You could potentially, a sweet spot for investors is actually 12%, where you can pay a little bit of LMI and just that's just another property cost you added to your loan. So you don't have to have the full amount, but a lot of people are getting help from sort of your mum and dad or getting a guarantor to sort of help them along the way and get on the property ladder.
That's where it's nerve-wracking, because not just on you now.
Absolutely.
You put $160,000 into an investment that I've known a lot of people that have invested even in the premium places in Gold Coast and are at the exact same, not exact same, but they haven't really made much money.
What, did they invest in an apartment or a house?
No, a home.
Okay.
And they've broken even.
Yeah.
And it's been probably 3 years.
Well, as I said, long term.
Yeah, as I'm saying, it's long term. It's not even
it's
2,
not
3 years.
It's not a 2-3 year game. It's a 10-year game at minimum.
So then you're stuck. You're
yes.
stuck with your hundreds. This is my logic towards it. I'll put 160 grand towards this home to then return me what?
Well, you're not stuck on that. You want to buy a property that you can add value to and create that instant equity.
Yes, but you have to have a specific property for that.
Correct.
So you can't just turn around and say, I want a property that I just want to put the money towards an investment. Hopefully they grow over time. You need to actually make alterations to the home to then bring that value up.
Well, that's what seasoned investors do. They alter the properties to create that extra rental yield to actually be able to support the interest repayments.
So then what are you paying to? So now, this one I want to get into it because again,
absolutely.
160 grand I've put up now towards a home. I now have to spend money to alter it to bring the value up. Give me a figure what I'd be spending.
But you don't have to do that immediately.
Yeah.
You can do that in 5 years' time. You can start getting income in the door.
Yeah.
And then maybe do it 2-3 years down the track when you've saved up a little bit. But as I mentioned before, you need to have multiple exit strategies. You can't just buy a home and you can't do nothing with it. You want to have potential development, or you could even get subdivision and sell it off with plans. Like, there's so many things you can do with it. It's not just about buying it and then just not thinking about it ever again. You need to think about long term and what you can actually do with the land. That's why it's super important to get your building and pest reports, checking easements, checking what you can actually do with the property, calling council and going, I'm thinking about doing this. is this achievable?
Yeah, because the council can say no.
Exactly.
The council can deny and say, no, you can't do that.
But like your typical first time investor would not even call a council and go, they'll just
Do it.
they'll just do it. Or they'll just ask the real estate agent, oh, what do you think? Can this be subdivided? Yeah, no worries. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, as long as I get my commission.
Absolutely. So
Put a go-kart track in the back if you want.
man, the amount of people I see do that, like it's, yeah. You're not talking about pocket change here. Like
That's what it doesn't make sense to me.
people don't
for me
even want to
do it.
spend $500 on a building and pest report.
Yeah.
When you're spending $800K to buy the property.
Yeah.
They'll walk through a property for 5 minutes and buy the property. Whereas, think about it. How long do you spend looking for a car?
Ages.
Weeks,
Yeah.
months.
Months, not even weeks. I spent ages looking for cars before I buy them.
Whereas going through a property, you go one inspection, look for 5 minutes, bid at auction, you're done. Crazy.
And
if
you're
you think
upset
about it that way.
You're upset when you lose your money.
It's all about
See,
research.
this
due
is why I
diligence.
stay away from this game. I stay away from it because what I tend to do now, I invest in businesses. I see more potential in a business. If I can invest, let's put it in perspective. You've got, how many hours would you spend researching a property?
For me, it's quicker than your average
Person. Let's say average person.
But obviously, for me, you'd spend at least a couple hours, like doing your proper due diligence, checking the streetscape, checking easements, calling council, checking social housing. There's a lot of due diligence that goes around. Obviously, then you need to get your building and pest report, go over that, contract reviews, check that. So yeah, there's a lot of due diligence, and that's just for the one property. Then if you're looking at multiple, then yeah, who knows throughout the week.
Then to do your alterations on the home too, to then make your money back. Because if you leave it the same by what you're saying, you're not going to make jack shit in the next 5 years.
Well, yeah, you're waiting for the market to do something.
You're waiting for the market to do something. That's why I sort of stuck towards the business stuff. Because if I can research a company, find out who the CEO is, what he's done, what he's created, research a business, I then know that when this business opens up, that there's potential to double my money. So if I put 10 grand towards it, I'll get 20. Even just double. Obviously, a lot of them go more than double, but even just a double. You double your money. What could you really, give me a good, right now, if I was to invest into a property, give me a good return if I was to do all my alterations and I was to get my money back from after 5 years.
So what it would look like?
So this 800 grand property, this hypothetical 800 grand property, I put 160 grand towards it, get my loan. How long would it take me to make, obviously it's a broad question, but roughly within an average, what would my return be on that property within, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
So this is where research comes into it. So you need to look at the suburb and so let's say we're buying a three-bedroom home. We need to see the difference between what a 3-bedroom home is selling for and what a 4-bedroom home is selling for. If there's like 100 and something K difference, all right, we might have a little opportunity to knock up a wall for 5, 10K, and suddenly we've created a 4-bedroom home. And now we've got that. So we'll take it back to the bank, get a valuation. Potentially that could come in 50, 100K instantly. So it could be instantly. You've got to really research the suburb.
Yeah.
You got to really pick the property asset. It's so important to do your research and get educated, because if you pick the wrong suburb or pick the wrong asset, it could just set you back 10 years.
Easy.
So
because like I said before, you've got 160 grand on the line. It's not $5. It's not 10 grand. It's not 20 grand. It's $160,000, which could take the average person 2 to 3 years of not spending a cent of their money to make from their wage.
Like for me, your first investment property is the most crucial. It could make you or break you. So using a buyer's agent is a no-brainer for your first one. Then, all right, if you get the gist of it, you can go yourself and do your second, third investment. But you need to know that first one's going to make you money. Because if it doesn't, then you're going to be stuck for a while.
And there's so many variables to it.
Yeah.
For a property, you have no control over it. You have nothing. You're relying on one thing and one thing only, that the area goes up, or that your alterations makes your property worth more.
Yep.
And I don't feel like that's a risk I'm willing to take. Some people might. Some people are good at it now, that they know how to pick out a home. They can just flip it, do a renovation, sell it off.
Obviously, even flipping now, like
It's not as good.
renovation cost, like
It's not even good
even
money.
builders, developers, like maybe their margins used to be 20%, but now they're looking at 10 to 15%. Like it is diminishing. So you got to be super crucial with what you're picking, because you can't sort of fluke it like COVID, where
Like I said,
you
that's
pick
you got like,
whatever location you want and it's going to go up.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good having someone in your corner that does this day in and day out and can really help you sort of move forward with your life. Because at the end of the day, most people's goals are to create wealth, and we're there to sort of assist them do that.
It's just, I guess, what I see is the risk over reward. What's the risk you're taking? You're minimum spending 120 grand of your money to get a property. Yeah. There's so many I see, and I know everyone's got their own opinions and their own, I guess, experiences. But even though I made a lot of money from real estate and properties, I still wouldn't go back into it, because it took 5 years for me to get lucky. In obviously the timing was just perfect, but if I was to do that again, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
there's no chance it's going to happen. It's not going to double again, and if it does double again, everyone's going to be homeless.
Yeah, obviously you're going to be different to everyone else. I know you're very entrepreneurial, like you like investing in businesses, whereas a lot of people they don't even know how to start a business. Like, so it does like we look at every client's situation differently. There's not a one size fits all to invest in.
No way.
Each person is going to be so different from the next one.
Yeah.
Each negotiation is so different from the next one. So, it's really about creating a plan to that individual person. So I know if I was investing for you, like it'd be totally different to your first time investor.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I do see value in buying businesses as well.
Not even buying businesses. Even it could be something as simple. Not even. It could be something as simple as creating partnerships, where you have a skill set. You've got a background of building, commercial. Now you've got into the real estate game. People need your skills in their own business, so you can offer your skills to get equity of a business. So what's stopping you going to someone who needs your service and saying, listen, don't pay me anything, give me 2% equity, and I'll help you grow this company. Now you are working towards growing a company that's going to then make you money. And it might take you 2-3 hours a week. It doesn't have to take you 38 hours a week to do it.
Yep.
You can do it on the side and still have an equity piece of another company. People think they have to give money to then own part of a business. It's not the case.
No,
You just need to know what value you bring to the table and be able to sell yourself and say, this is what I can do for you. These are my skills. I'm 25 years old. I guarantee you've got 10 times more knowledge on your industry than I do on mine. But someone needs that. And it's hard to believe sometimes that someone needs your service or your experience and something in their business they don't have. It could be simple. It could be a developer that wants to develop properties, and they want someone that has your knowledge to say, where should I build? Where should I start building? They don't want to pay someone to do it for them. They want someone in their business that can give them 2%. It doesn't cost them really anything up front. They're working for their shares. So it's just that obviously I've been opened up to another world when it comes to this stuff, but I can't unsee it now because the potential is endless and anyone can do it. I don't care. People can put the limiting belief in their head and say, I can't do it because I don't know enough. You're not going to know till you try it.
A lot of people, obviously we caught up, what was it, probably about how 6 months ago?
Probably,
something
yeah,
like that?
yeah.
6 months ago, and obviously, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will be like, well, "How do you buy a company with no money?" Sorry, how do you sort of get equity in a company without putting any money down? Like, there are ways around it, and like as you said, I could sort of use my skills for someone that needs them, and they could give me equity in return. It doesn't necessarily you have to exchange money at the end of the day. You do, as a business owner, you do have to have sort of a strong mindset and sort of resilience and discipline. And I feel like for us, it comes naturally because we come from a sporting background as well. We grew up in that competitive nature. So I find that I already have that in me. So I haven't got the sort of thing in me where I'll go, oh, this is just too hard, I'm going to give up. I've built up that resilience and discipline. And you know how many no's I get throughout the year? Like, if I didn't have resilience, I'd be like, stuff this, I'm getting out of the real estate game, this is not for me. But because we've already built that, every no is going to get you closer to a yes.
100%. And you're going to, if you can't accept a no and take it on board as a positive to say it is going to get me one step closer to a yes, you're never going to make any business in anything. In sales, not even if you have your own business, even in doing sales, you're not going to make it anywhere. Because if you ask a salesman how many times do you get a no, I guarantee you they get 95% no's and 5% yeses, if not more, less. 98% no's and 2% yeses. So what I believe in is that everyone has started to actually believe that they aren't good enough to do certain things. They don't believe in themselves enough.
Sort of that imposter syndrome.
It is, because what I do now, a year ago I couldn't imagine doing it. It's been 7 months. And I've got shares of heaps of companies for my own sweat equity, sometimes giving them money, depending on how the deal went and what I wanted to do. But I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't believe I could do it. Because anyone can show you the step by step. I can sit someone down across me and say, here, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and you'll get equity for nothing. And they'll look at me like, bullshit. I'm like, wait a second, you haven't even tried it yet. Before you call bullshit, try it. And I've sat people down for hours and explained, here, first step, here, second step, third step. Still don't believe it.
Yep.
And it's in their own head.
Mindset.
It's just mindset. And it's sad because these guys are way more educated than me. They are better. I wasn't good at school. I basically failed every subject. But I started to develop a belief in myself. These guys are they're killing it. They can memorize something they read like this. Me, I have to read it 15 times to even get 10% of it to stay in my brain.
Yeah, for me, I've got to write notes down.
I've got to write notes. I've got to read a book. I'm writing notes, everything. I'm summarizing it. I've got to do everything because my brain won't absorb it unless I do that. So these guys are in front but just don't believe in themselves.
Mate, for me, personal development is huge. Education is huge. Like, I don't even know how much I've spent in the last couple of years getting me to a level where I'm bloody good at what I do. Most recently, I was bidding an auction for a client, and the real estate agent came up to me and goes like, mate, that's the best bidding I've ever seen in my career. Sorry. So man, if another real estate agent is saying that about you, you must be doing something right. So for me, personal development, I can't even put it into words like how many courses I've done, how much sort of mindset. I'm still learning every single week. I've got 5 different things that I'm going through. I'm doing mindset every week. I'm doing research. I'm doing sales. I'm doing marketing. So it's not just about when owning a business you got to have multiple hats on at the one time, especially if you're the only one in the business. You need to think about everything. Whereas, obviously, once you start to get a bit busier, you can delegate those little admin tasks and free up a bit more of your time. But to start off with, the first 2 years, anyone that says business is easy is lying. Business is
I
tough.
think it becomes easy.
It becomes easier.
Because but not the first one.
No, once
your
you
first
have
business is the hardest one.
The first business is the hardest, but then once you have multiple, you get the gist of how it works and how to implement stuff. But you need to get your systems and processes right. Once those are right, it all flows. But setting that up,
Yeah.
and creating those SOPs and everything, you just it takes time. And for me, I've learned now I've learned how business works now, and I've sort of got a good gist of it. And I'm not against owning multiple businesses. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people believe that if you own multiple businesses, you have to be involved in every single business. It's not the case.
Absolutely.
Sometimes
not.
it's your capital you use. Sometimes it's your sweat you use. Sometimes it's your network you use. Sometimes you can make a percentage of a company just from hooking the right people up to getting two people together.
Being the middle.
Hey, I know this guy. I know that guy. Let's make you talk. If this deal goes ahead, I want 0.5%. That 0.5%, all it costed me was half an hour of my time and a conversation between two people. That's all it was. And it sounds simple and it sounds unrealistic and it sounds silly, but that's how simple it can be. And most times you'll find that these guys are happy to give you that because they wouldn't have had that contact without you. And people put a limit on the potential they have on their phone as well, because this phone has endless potential with your contacts, just people and I always talk to everyone because of that reason.
Inner circle.
Yeah, just within your inner circle, just within people you know, just be nice to people. Hey mate, listen, I haven't spoken to you in 10 years, but I've got this opportunity for you. I know you're in this industry. Would you be interested? That's all.
Bang.
And people are too scared to even do that. I will call people any time of the night or of the day on weekends. If they're serious about business, I'll call them anytime and I'll do it. My girlfriend freaks out. She goes, why are you calling me this time? If he wants this deal, he's going to answer that phone. Because if he doesn't answer, I'm calling someone else straight after.
Absolutely. Like even real estate. Real estate's a 24/7 game. Like I've done deals at midnight at night. Like that's the lengths that you need to go to succeed.
Yeah.
You can't be lazy, and you really got to put in the work, because no one's going to do the work but you.
Yeah.
100%.
It is. Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll be talking after this anyway, getting some deals together.
Yeah, 100%. Because there's always an opportunity between two people. You just got to find it. I've spoken to mates 4 years ago about what they do and remembered. And then when an opportunity's come up, I've just called them and been like, hey, listen, I know we spoke 3-4 years ago about this. This opportunity's come up. Would you be interested on jumping on board with me? Yeah, sweet. And my brain remembers more about that stuff than reading. I will remember what industry you're in, but I'll forget your name. It's weird. But I'll remember a potential, like I'll think of someone 10 years ago I met, and I'll try to get through to him. Oh, well, yeah, he was mates with him. I still got him on Instagram. I'll message him to try to get through to this guy. And you just put the pieces together.
Well, it's not even that direct person. That direct person could know someone. Imagine how many people they got in their inner circle.
Yeah.
So it could lead you. You never know where a conversation is going to lead you to. Same thing in real estate. You could be speaking to the client, but they have family and friends that they're going to refer you to. If you do a good job, you're gonna get the whole family.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, it's not just business. It's everything. Everything in life. Like I try to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
That's the mindset I got now. Whereas maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I probably would have stayed in my room and been an introvert, you know. So
well, even you being on video right now, that would be a lot for you. with what I'm saying in the past.
Oh, in the past, absolutely. now I need to sort of get in front of the camera, build a social presence. Personal branding is huge, especially in real estate. So yeah, you need to, even if you're uncomfortable, you need to get comfortable. There's nothing good that comes from being comfortable. You need to get uncomfortable to actually do something.
And the point is as well is that you just got to do it.
Yep.
There's never going to be a perfect opportunity to start. There's never going to be a perfect time. For what I started posting on my social platform about, can't remember what I started talking about, but I just started. Whatever came out on video, I cropped it up, posted it.
Mate, I started my business at the worst time you could possibly start. It was during COVID. My missus was pregnant. It was like having a third baby. Like it was nuts. I just now that I think of it, I'm like, what was I thinking? Like I literally, instead of 2 babies, I had 3. Yeah. So there's never a good time, but as I'm proof, you can start at any time.
Anytime. Even at the worst time.
At the worst time.
Statistically, you start at the worst time possible.
Yep, and I've made it through. So, if you're listening, you can do it too.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just starting. Yep. It's nothing dramatic. Just do something. You want to post videos and get more confident? Post something. I always have my mates say, like, how do you know what to talk about? I just press record, start talking about a topic and just post it. Half the shit I would say in my videos made no sense. But I just posted to get over the fear. Now I post once a day. So if you want to achieve something, just do it. Don't overthink it. Don't make it perfect. Don't think, it's not the right time. If you want it, just do it.
Yep.
And it's so simple. Don't let because your mind will throw you off course. If you start to listen and try to analyze things and, I'm not feeling like it at the moment, it's not the right time. My girlfriend, my boyfriend, my sister, my family, it's not you're going to find a million reasons to stop yourself from doing
Excuses.
It's just excuses. There's no other reason except you're making excuses. And that's why only a percentage of people will actually achieve it. Because everyone I know wants to start a business. Do you know how many people that I know that have said, I'm going to start a business, have actually done it? Probably none.
Yeah.
Probably none of them. I think one of them, out of probably 15, 20 people that I've spoken to that said, I'm going to start a business in this, whatever it is, actually ended up following through.
A lot of people like talking about something and having an idea, but they can't take action. They procrastinate too much. So there's a difference sort of between people that take action and people that are just sitting on the fence and waiting for something to happen.
Yeah. Like it's going to just come to them.
Yeah.
I had a laugh with one of my business partners the other day because we're talking about how people always talk about starting businesses and all this sort of thing. And while we're in the conversation, this was on a Friday night, we came up with a business idea. We want to start it. By the next night, we had a business name. By Monday, we had a website. So that's the difference between someone with that mindset and someone that would just try make a perfect plan. It was a half an hour phone call. There was no business plan before that. We had an idea. We knew that there was a potential market for it. Boom, let's start a website.
Mate, that's someone that takes action.
But that's what I'm saying. But obviously I wasn't always like that. I was always like, oh, nah, man, it's going to do this, that. We got to work out this first, make sure it's this, test the market, yeah, whatever. But if you can get into a habit of just following through with what you say.
What's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst that can happen? My mate used an example. So this same guy, he used an example. He goes, one night, him and his mate were having a few drinks. And they decided, as for a joke, see who can create the best website with products and launch it. Because they were just bored and they're all technicians. They were all like IT gurus. He made a website selling vapes. He ended up the next day having a full-blown, he'd stayed up all night. Website, set up the marketing campaign, set up everything. He ended up selling a business for 15 grand 2 months later.
Not a bad return.
But it was just, they were drunk, had a laugh, let's do it. You know what I mean? Let's create something, and they did it. He ended up profiting I think it's about $1,000 a week up until he sold it. And that was purely just from spending, it was a lot of hours, probably 12, 13 hours, but he had a business.
I'll make $1,000 an hour.
But it's, I'll take it, 15 grand to sit there. 15 grand was what they sold it for. Let's say they made altogether 25 grand.
Yeah.
And that was just from, I got an idea, I'm going to do it. Let's have fun with it. If it doesn't make money, it doesn't make money. It's just my time I'm spending. But they're the type of guys that become successful.
Yeah. And there's also multiple ways to make money. Like if you have a business, you can create multiple income streams. Like you don't just have to rely on the one service or the one product. You can create different products or different services that can create you multiple income streams, which is so you're not just relying on that one service or one product.
Yeah, we have to. COVID taught us that because the people that had one service crumbled during COVID. The people that had online services and all these other things backing them and other income streams, whether it was from IP, whether it was from royalties, whether it was from just other ways of making money within their business, they survived. And again, people believe that there's only one, you get a business. If I'm in real estate, I only make money from my commissions. Wait, there's so many more ways to make money from a real estate business.
Absolutely. You can do courses, you can do auction bidding only, you can do negotiation only, you can create them a game plan, so create them a 30-year plan on where they are now, where they want to go. There's just so many ways. Like I can think of heaps, but obviously don't want to disclose everything. But
all your secrets.
Yeah, but there's a lot of ways that you can sort of skin a cat, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah.
Well, I reckon we'll end it here. This is good. We've been gone for an hour now, which is good.
Already.
It feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, thank you for coming on. That was good. And we'll definitely have a chat after this. And I want to get you back on again.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll get into more depth about all this sort of thing and business and that entrepreneur mindset. And I think it's good. I think people need to understand that they're actually limiting themselves.
There's more to life.
Yeah. There's so much.
There's
so
something
much to
on the
know.
other side.
There's so much to know.
There's a secret.
There's so much to know. There's so much you can learn. There's so much you can educate yourself on. There's so many courses out there now, free, paid. There's just do something.
Absolutely.
Stop making excuses. Stop making up bullshit things and make yourself believe that it's not possible. Just do something and see if it works out. I've started probably 10 businesses until one worked. So it's just trial and error.
Absolutely.
That's it, man.
Even in business, like my business is trial and error.
Yeah.
And then what works, stick with it.
That's it. And then you just grow that.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Well, thank you for your time again, and we'll talk soon.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on, and obviously I'd like to do it again one day. Yeah.
Done, man.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.